In this segment, we're going to show you how to wire up and install a Tortoise switch machine. The parts you're going to need are a Tortoise switch machine, a double pole, double throw switch that we're going to cross wire, and a 9-volt DC transformer. When you open the box, what you should find inside is the Tortoise switch machine itself. Now it's flat up here. This is the flat part that goes on the underside of the table. There's also a green yoke, and then there is this piece of spring wire right here. In addition to that, if you look at the machine, you see this black thing right here? That's the part that moves back and forth, activating the switch above the table. In addition to that, don't lose that screw. That screw is very important. The instructions that come with the Tortoise switch machine have 2 or 3 different ways to wire it up. We're going to take the easiest way, which also happens to be the best way for an O-gauge 3-rail train layout. The first thing we need to do is take this piece of piano wire and bend about a 1/8 inch right angle on one end, like this. There. When it's done, it should look just like this. After the wire is bent, the assembly is pretty simple. You take this green yoke and put it into and up through this slide. Make sure you have the flat side of the yoke pointed up, like this. Take the straight end of the wire, put it in the hole of the yoke, and then put the bent part of the wire in the small hole on the black part. Then install the screw and tighten the screw in. When you tighten the screw, be sure that you tighten it until the head touches the wire, and then back it off a 1/4 of a turn. Like that. I've built this demonstrator board to show you how to mount the track and a switch machine on your layout. Assuming that you're using cork roadbed, after the roadbed is laid, the next thing that you'll do is position the switch where you want it. Once you've positioned the track and the switch where you know it's going to be, reach into the ties where the throw bar moves and mark the location of the throw bar. Move it back and forth so that you get the full travel of that throw bar marked. Just to be safe, it's a good idea to mark it on the other side too, because you're going to drill the table out with a hole underneath that throw bar, and you may run into a support piece of wood underneath the table. So it's a good idea to have 2 different locations to mount the machine. We've got to drill an elongated hole at each of these locations. So the best way to do that is to drill 2 holes side by side and then clean out the middle like this. There, that should do it. Once you've got both of the holes drilled, clean out the hole to make sure there's no splinters or anything like that. Use an X-Acto knife or a small round file if you have it. They should look like this when you're done. Once you've finished drilling the hole and cleaning it out, mount your track turnout in whatever method that suits you best, being sure that you have that throw bar directly over that elongated hole that you drilled. Break off a couple of scrap pieces of balsa wood and block the switch so that it's set in the middle, like this. There. That holds the switch points so that they're positioned in the center of their throw range. The power supply comes with a modular plug on the end of it. The first thing you do is go back about a couple of inches away from the plug, cut that off, separate the wires, and strip them so that you've got 2 tips, something like this. Now you're ready to plug the power supply in, and the next thing we have to do is center the Tortoise switch machine so that it too is in the center of its throw. Here is the part of the machine that you want to be centered right over here. On all these electrical contacts, the outermost 2 are the ones that you use for the power wires. Taking the power wires from the transformer, touch them until it starts to move. Well, if it doesn't move any more than that, then you need to reverse the wires like this and bump the machine over to the middle. There. Now this next step would obviously be done under the table, but for the purposes of this video, we've turned our demonstrator board over so we can more clearly show you what we're talking about. You want to take the switch machine with the rod, and you want to position it up through the hole in the table into the small hole of the throw bar on the track turnout, like this. Then once you have located it there, mark the holes so that you can mount the machine. There, we've marked and drilled all 4 holes using a 3/32 wood bit. To mount the machine, use 4 wood screws. The size is number 4 by 1/2 inch. But because of the way the Tortoise is designed with this lip, you can actually insert 2 screws almost all the way down, then put the machine in and put the other 2 in. I'll show you. Carefully reinsert the wire in the small hole of the throw bar and then slide the machine up underneath the screw heads like that. Now we'll tighten the 2 top screws so that we'll hold the machine in place. After the first 2 are firmly installed, put the second 2 in, snug them down, and now we're ready to start wiring the Tortoise switch machine. If you mount your switch on the control panel like this, you won't need any indicator lights showing which way the switch is thrown, because the switch lever itself will show you what route the train is going to take. In the wiring diagram that you're looking at, the red and green wires are from the power pack. The white wires show how to cross-wire the double pole, double throw switch. The orange and the yellow wires lead from the switch over to the Tortoise switch machine. This may look a little complicated, but take a look at this simplified diagram. What you're really doing is crossing the outside corners of the contacts to each other. Then you're using the 2 middle contacts to go from the switch over to the Tortoise switch machine. This wiring is what enables you to throw the machine both ways with just 1 toggle switch. Now that we've got all the toggle switches wired, it's time to go through your layout and take out all of those balsa wood blocks that we had on the track turnout, because we're getting very close to testing the machine and the turnout, and we want it to be able to move freely. Now go under your table and solder all of the yellow and all of the orange wires onto your Tortoise switch machines. Solder them on the outside terminals like you see here. It's not important which way you solder them right now. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Now it's time to check all the switches on your layout. And when you do, you may find you have a situation like this. If you look closely, the toggle switch in this application is pointing toward the straight track, but the track turnout is actually set to go on the curve. If you have a situation like this, where the switch machine is operating in the reverse of the toggle switch, we'll go underneath the layout and switch the wires on that Tortoise. Now, if you look closely, the toggle switch is set for the straight track and the track turnout is set for the straight track. So everything is working the way it should now. As with anything in our hobby, there are advantages and disadvantages of using a Tortoise switch machine. The advantages are that it's easy to install, and every time you throw the toggle switch, the track switch is going to go all the way from one point to the other. It's never going to hang up in the middle. Disadvantage is you don't have the non-derailing feature that you had in your old Lionel switches, but they work so much better and they look better. Tortoise switch machines are a real good way to control turnouts on a high rail layout.